Hello. Welcome to the Goods. I know that you have been looking at us wearing our Fly Goods podcast gear and wondering where can we get those. Well, guess what? We have the answers for you. We have it here, Teespring. Go to Teespring and you will find all of this glorious merchandising, from t-shirts to mugs to, well, there's other toys, but we can't talk about that now. Go to Teespring. Enjoy our memorabilia.
And we're back! All flash!
No substance.
So today's top 5 in honor of Pride Month is the top 5 LGBTQ plus films. Now there have been many films that have highlighted the queer community over the last few decades, and it's about time that we actually highlight them. So joining us today is our first director of all time in the Goods podcast, back in the Boom Boom Room after a 2-year hiatus, my lovely daughter Aspen. Welcome back. About freaking time.
Thank you for having me.
Where the hell you been? Oh yeah, college. Never mind. All right. So, Aspen, since you are our guest, go first.
Okay. So I did films that may not be outright queer. They might have undertones or overtones, however you want to say, or like they were later on revealed to be queer characters.
Okay.
So my number 5.
Number 5
is most recently the Mitchells versus the Machines.
That's an animated film.
Yes, an animated film that has a openly lesbian character.
You think so?
It is.
Really?
Yes, it
I didn't
is.
see that. I didn't get that from that film.
She's dating the girl in the end of the film.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, and like every single animation, like
Okay, you know what? I'll give you that.
Every rainbow.
I'm surprised it's the top 5.
Every rainbow is like the lesbian flag colors. So like whatever. Well, I put it at number 5 just because it's an animation, and you know it's important to start having those visuals when like for kids. You know, like a lot of people realize that they're queer when they're young, and it can feel very isolating. So seeing a film like that at my age, I'm 22. I feel like seeing that maybe when I was like 10 or 13 would have made a world of a difference for me.
That's fair.
So yeah.
Nice. Okay. That's a good film, by the way. You gotta freaking check it out. That movie is freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it is funny. Okay, number 4.
Number 4
is Jennifer's Body.
I am not gonna argue that.
Okay.
What? Amanda Seyfried
And
Megan Fox. I'm
Right.
done. I'm
Okay.
good. Sold. Here's my
This is
ticket.
like-
Written by Diablo Cody.
Yes, this is the ultimate like queer awakening film. Very undertoned like bisexuality and so and like it's a horror movie. And it's like one of those films that wasn't accepted when it first came out. People hated it. They didn't like I don't know how to say. Like people just didn't really. And that's
I didn't
because
like the dialogue. I thought it was trying to be too cool.
Well, and it's because like the dialogue and the promotion of the film was really targeted towards men, like the male gaze, right? We got Megan Fox who's coming off of Transformers, and Diablo Cody coming off of Juno, like the very popular film, and it was targeted
Oscar winner
towards
for that
men, and honestly, like over time that's changed, and it's really targeted towards women, and because it's not only just about queer culture and like queer feelings, but it's about women empowerment. Like she's killing men and that's like one of my favorite scenes where Amanda Seyfried's like, "You're killing people," and she's like, "No, I'm not. I'm killing boys." That's like the ultimate power move, which is just why it's like such a it's
a cult classic.
Yeah.
And you're right, and it was coming off both of them. Megan Fox was like really hot after Transformers, and Diablo Cody, Oscar winner for Juno.
Yeah.
And featuring Elliot Page. So yeah, I could see that. It wasn't accepted. Do you think it was not accepted because of the concept, or because it was a horror film, or it wasn't accepted as a horror film?
Probably. I mean, there's a lot of stigma around like women in horror specifically, so that like women's place in horror is only to be the body, right?
Or the final girl.
Yeah, right. But even then, like your final girl is usually like super hot, right? So like, or there's just something about her. There really is no like further intelligence, right? Whereas Megan Fox offered you both the body and the brains when she becomes the succubus, yeah. And that's just kind of like where it took a turn later on, and it became this cult classic because people were like, wow, she's actually more than just like Megan Fox,
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Okay. My number 3.
Number 3
is a classic, but I'm a cheerleader. I love that film.
Natasha Lyonne?
So much, yes. Okay.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I love this film so much. It's another one of those movies that I watched as like a youth, and the visuals in it, like all the colors are just like really like stark and like kind of reminds me of Edward Scissorhands, like where there's just like these really plain colors contrasted with like the brightness of everything.
Okay.
And then of course like the film is about conversion therapy and about like how these families are like, we think you're a homosexual. And she's like, I'm not a homosexual,
but I'm a cheerleader.
Oh, okay.
And
Natasha
then,
Lyonne, you remember that cover box?
And Clea Duvall, you know, like, love her. But like, so like their relationship is like, you're watching it slowly grow, and it's like, it's actually showing a genuine queer love story while also commenting on how the pressure is like from family and from community, and like how you should change yourself and how you should hide it. And they have like all these different aspects about that, you know, like RuPaul's in it and he's playing like the coach for like the men that are there, but he's also secretly, you know, like gay himself, and like you're just watching all of that happen, and it's just like really eye-opening for the time, really. And
that film actually, it was an independent comedy that they had. I remember seeing it all the time at Blockbuster. It was on the New Hot Singles. You remember that? The New Hot Singles? And it was frequently rented a lot. That is the only way where she's actually on, Leon's actually on the cover of it. And I remember that one was always rented all the time on that. But there's your reasoning why, because of all of those, that was their Mitchell's versus whatever. But,
the Mitchells versus the Machines.
The Mitchells versus the Machines of that time.
Yeah.
All right, go for it. Next
Okay,
one.
my number 2.
Number 2!
Fittingly is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's
Knew it was
Revenge.
I knew that was in there.
Oh my gosh, if any of you know me, that is literally the best film ever. No one can talk shit to me. I don't care what you say, I don't care about your opinion. Literally the very first male Scream Queen.
Mark Patton, baby!
Yeah, like ever. And honestly, like people can talk shit all day, like that part 2 doesn't really fit into the timeline or whatever, but outside of it, like this possession idea is actually talking about the horror of coming out, and like how it feels to have this thing inside of you that like nobody knows about and nobody's gonna accept. That's really what it's about, and I think people just didn't like it because they were using such an iconic character like Freddy, but the gay icon now, duh. So
okay, so there's a couple of things on that. One is the gay overtones were always, it always kind of like they ridiculed that movie because of that.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, nobody even got it at first until they actually said it.
Exactly, that's absolutely true.
Well, yeah, and it started off as like a joke thing, and that's like, unfortunately, like what happened to the cast. Like they were constantly ridiculed and bullied. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the gay film, gay Freddy. Oh, I bet you slept with him, blah blah. And like that's unfortunate. And that's just like, and that's honestly a part of the message is that Freddy also plays this tormenting character to Jesse as well. The constant like, oh, you know that this is you, and I'm gonna use it against you, and that's unfortunately like a really huge message as well in the queer community.
So to be honest with you, this is one of the films that people can say all they want, whether it's about the gay overtones and all of that, that as a horror film, it is still really good. And as far as the hidden messages and everything, as Aspen alluded to right now, there is a lot of truth in that. And because of that, there's a symbolic message that it is, you know, it is the fear of coming out. And that is when Freddy is actually coming out of Jesse. That's almost like the true fruition of who he really is. You know, there is a freedom to that. Even though the guy got slashed on this side, but they showed it on this side. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that the point is that it is an underrated film. I would still say that it is in the top 5. Way the hell better than Dream Fucking Child. So yes, I agree with you on that. That's a great pick. Number 1.
Oh, do I do number 1 or
Number 1!
Number 1!
So not honorable mentions first?
No, you gotta say your number 1.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's been a while.
I know.
You're forgetting.
I forgot. My number 1 is Moonlight.
Moonlight.
Yes, the Oscar award-winning film by Barry Jenkins.
Oh, I thought it was La La Land.
Ha ha ha.
Sorry, Beatty. I had to throw that in there.
This film is just good. I mean, there's really no hate that I could ever give to this film, and it's a personal story, and it tackles a lot of things. It tackles not only like, you know, coming out and being queer, you know, and figure that out as a child, but it just also battles what it's like to live in poverty at the same time as trying to figure that out. And, you know, this kid, you know, struggles a lot, and you get to watch his life and how he becomes a better person. I wrote an essay about 2 of the scenes, actually, and about how they use music to communicate, because there's not very much dialogue in the film, but everything is just all visual, and it's all through the faces and the colors and just everything, the metaphors, and I think it's just a beautifully wrapped film.
So this is the Jaws of gay films.
Sure.
That's right.
Citizen Kane of gay films.
That's a great list. I'm gonna give you credit for that one. You're probably. I did not put Elm Street on my list.
Yeah.
And I should have. And I suck.
For shame.
So let's go with number 5.
No!
Okay, so my number 5 is actually Dog Day Afternoon. Now this is way before your time.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Dog Day Afternoon stars Al Pacino and John Cazale, I think that's his name. He actually played Fredo in the Godfather films. This movie was actually one of the first dramas that I was ever exposed to when it comes to the gay culture. First was Cruisin' with Al Pacino, and the next was Dog Day Afternoon. And this is basically about them robbing a bank to pay for a sex change, and it was very intense. They're in the bank, they had their hostages. They go back and forth with the negotiator, and it is very intense and one of the strongest endings I've seen in a film. I've got to say, between obviously Scarface, Godfather, and Justice for All, one of Al Pacino's best. And not taken away from Son of a Woman, but this movie was really freaking good. He was absolutely excellent. So if you've never seen it, you gotta check out Dog Day Afternoon. All right, number 4.
Oh!
Number 4 is Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh my gosh.
Now, there are certain movies where the performance makes the movie. I would say Jamie Foxx and Ray is probably one, and coincidentally, another music bio is Rami Malek, sorry, thank you. Rami Malek as freaking Mercury. This is one of the best performances I have.
It's an accurate historical movie ever.
And you're probably right.
Little, yeah.
But this is one of the best performances that made this film. This film honestly made its money based off Rami Malek's performance. And even though Terrence wants to say that Sacha Baron Cohen would have probably done a better job, I'm not going to argue with that, because that man can trial the freaking Chicago 7. You need to check that. He's freaking amazing, Sacha Baron Cohen. But this film, Rami Malek was absolutely amazing as Freddie Mercury, and the whole theme of Bohemian Rhapsody. When he says that he killed a man, he tells Mama, I've killed a man, he's actually killed himself, because he killed who he was in the beginning and who he is as a gay man going forward in his life. So there is a lot of symbolism in the song itself, and what Mercury had to do to get through that, and then to be such a presence on screen, which by far right now, Queen's performance at Live Aid is probably one of the top performances of all time live. So it's absolutely amazing. I hope they don't do a Bohemian Rhapsody 2, but I gotta give number 4 to Bohemian Rhapsody. Number 3!
Number 3!
It's the Birdcage!
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna put the Birdcage in there.
Have you ever seen, wait, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Have you ever seen those TikToks where it's like, oh, I'm judging you based off your favorite like LGBT movie, and it's like Birdcage comes up and it's like, hey, that's my dad's favorite, and then like The Kids Are Alright comes up and it's like, hey, that's my mom's favorite.
Well, that is not my favorite, but it is in my top 3, and number 3 for me is the Birdcage. And first of all, okay, so it's in its 25th anniversary this year. So, hey man, the late Robin Williams, man, he could freaking do it all. But him being, this is funny because he was gay but playing the straight man to Nathan Lane, which was just hilarious in itself. But when you see the chemistry that they have together, and Robin Williams being such a professional that he plays the gay straight man so freaking well. And it's completely different from whatever you've seen before the Birdcage, which was, stuff like Mork and Mindy. You got all of the stuff that he did before. Aladdin. That's right, he did do Aladdin before that. But he did so much before that this was a completely different take on everything. And the fact that he did play the straighter man in this relationship, which coincidentally Nathan Lane was in Aladdin too. He was in Aladdin too. But Nathan Lane was perfection. Then you got guys like Gene Hackman, who was absolutely phenomenal in this movie too. It's just a beautiful story. I love the way they have the two gay men as the parents, and the son, the way he embraces them as his parents, and all of the things that go back and forth as far as the conservative straight perception of homosexuality versus what happiness really is. And I think that's what I loved about The Birdcage so much, is because you got happiness and you have these opinions, and it's funny, my mother always said, what you hate will always be in your family. So don't hate, judge slowly, and your life will be fine. That's true, that's what my mom said. And in that particular movie, Gene Hackman and his conservative ways and everybody else, he had a gay family have to be in his family. So I thought that it was amazing. The comedy, Nathan Lane was perfection in that movie. It's absolutely one of the best. So that's my number 3. Number 2 is Monster.
Really?
Fuck yeah, dude. You get Charlize Theron to play Eileen Wuornos in a completely different,
in the biopics.
Completely different role. Like, you look at Charlize Theron, or you think about Charlize Theron when you hear her name, and it's just beauty, flawlessness, everything about her. It's just amazing.
Calm down there.
And then, hold on, my daughter's here. Let me cover this. But then you put that makeup on, and she becomes this character of Eileen Wuornos, and Eileen Wuornos was a serial killer, and she had this relationship, as far as with the character that Christina Ricci plays, and it is just phenomenal. Her performance as Eileen Wuornos was just mesmerizing. You don't picture it. It's like almost like you have to be out of character completely to really show your range. Denzel Washington did it. Tom Hanks did it. Like, so many people have gone out of Halle Berry have done it. So many people have gone out of their normality to show you something different as far as their craft and their range, to really give you a character so you can relate with. And I really want to say that is exactly what Charlize Theron did as Eileen Wuornos. And when you watch these documentaries with Eileen Wuornos on it, she really personified that character. So props to both ladies, because Christina Ricci was no slouch in this, and both ladies did great. So that's my number 2 on that one. All right. Number 1. You go from Splash to Bachelor Party to The Money Pit to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is my favorite film of all time when it comes to the LGBTQ plus in the queer community film. This is my favorite film of all time. This is actually a remote drop. There are so many films that you got out there that it's a remote drop. If it's Few Good Men is one, Jaws is another. Well, Jaws is number 1 always. Few Good Men is the other, and the third one actually is Philadelphia. If I see that movie, I'm dropping the freaking remote. I'm watching that movie. It's absolutely perfection. And then you got Jonathan Demme, who did Silence of the Lambs, which that's another remote drop. But how?
Another good queer film.
That is another good queer film. Buffalo Bill, you bastard. But what Tom Hanks did in Philadelphia was completely out of character. And as I said before, as far as Charlize Theron in Monster, I would like to say that he was one of the first ones to actually do that, because he completely got out of the slapstick, knockoff type of comedies that he was doing with Money Pit, Bachelor Party, that kind of thing, and he took this, to another level. And there was no type of restraint when it came to what he was going to put out on screen, from when Andy was figuring out who he was to where he was going to end up being in the relationship that he had with Antonio Banderas. All of that. was just captured beautifully by him and Jonathan Demme. Obviously, Denzel Washington played a big part. One of his best films, I think we had that. I think me and T both had that in our Denzel top 5. But the fact that it also, besides the gay aspect of it, gave a really good spotlight on the AIDS epidemic and everything that was important about AIDS and treating it as a handicap and not any type of just a sickness, but a handicap itself. And that, I thought, Demme captured beautifully, but none of it was going to happen without Tom Hanks. And his range and everything that he did was spot on. So that is my number 1 of all time.
Very nice.
Very nice. All right, honorable mentions!
Your top 2 are so sad.
I know.
Such sad films.
But it's true, though. They were freaking excellent. They were excellent.
Yes. Okay.
I was going to say Mannequin Hollywood. What's up? Albert, that bitch!
Oh my god. Alright, honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
Okay, my first one is also The Birdcage. My second one is, I'm probably gonna get shit for this one, but Chasing Amy.
Dude, that's badass, dude. That's a good one. When are you gonna get your Black Rage?
Because, mostly because it's, like, controversial because, like, she eventually is, like she switches, right? Like, she ends up being with the guy, right? Even though, like, she spends most of the movie being like, I'm a lesbian!
But she's called Finger Cuffs. It's amazing.
So that's why it's kind of like not really a queer film, but like,
You know what?
it's one of my favorite films to watch.
Her central character, her character in the beginning and straight up through the middle is gay. So,
yes, I know that.
So
that's why it's controversial because it has this. There's this thing of like, oh, straight men constantly being like, oh, I love lesbians because I can try and change them, and that's a really toxic.
Yes.
You know.
I've done it myself.
Exactly. It's a very like toxic masculine.
That was a long time ago,
kind
man.
of thing.
She ain't had none of this.
But
She
like,
had, you know.
But like, but it's definitely one of my comfort films. Like, just kind of to watch, and I love like these independent, like Swingers and Chasing Amy, and just all those films that like I just watch to watch, you know.
But you know, you have to admit, like after, because this is Kevin Smith's 3rd film.
Yeah.
So after you got something like Clerks and then Mallrats, and then you have something like this.
Yeah.
Don't you think that Chasing Amy was probably the one that had the most substance?
Oh yeah, I had the most story, you know, like as far as like these characters were really in depth, and you know, you were really following them. But of course, like as far as like the queer aspect, unfortunately, it just kind of falls short as far as being genuine.
What else?
So Carol is my next one. Another like
Blanchett, right?
Yes, this would have been on the list had it not been for like the mommy lover trope that the film unfortunately has. Because Cate Blanchett is like she's an older woman, and Rooney Mara is like the young shop girl, and her outfits and her hair are very similar.
Cate Blanchett's no who?
Yes.
Compared to Rooney Mara?
Yes, compared to Rooney Mara, like they're the lovers in the film.
I'm just thinking about Thor, and I'm like, I know.
Well, yeah, I know.
I'm thinking about Elm Street.
I love.
I'm thinking about Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
I was like, I know.
MILFs. Love that.
MILFs. Anyway.
Okay, well, so like the whole thing is like costume design wise, like her Rooney Mara's outfits and her hair resemble Cate Blanchett's character's daughter, and like visually.
That's crazy.
And so like unfortunately, like especially in like in the lesbian community, there's that issue, like lesbians who have like mommy issues. And so like you're automatically attracted to like older women because you want that like motherly love, right? And so unfortunately, like for that trope, it didn't make my list, but it is a beautiful film that actually communicates like genuine love instead of constantly focusing on the fact that like, because it's in the 50s, right? Like this is still a time where like none of that is spoken about, like it's not out in the open. And so the whole, like it does a good job of showing their lives from behind closed doors and outside, right? So, and my last one is A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So this is another one of those like independent films, and is also a part of my list of why can we not have a lesbian film where lesbians have electricity. Because this is another film where like we're in the 1800s.
I
We
think
have candles.
I think I know what film you're talking about. You're talking about it doing like the lesbians, but
Yes, they have like the candles, like the tunnels. It's same with Antoinette with what's her Saoirse Ronan and Kate Winslet. Another film where we can now have lesbians can't have electricity.
no technology for y'all.
Monster did.
So just like, but it was still a very beautiful film and it just made me cry. That's all.
Okay, so my honorable mention is also Elm Street 2. Gotta throw
Yeah,
that.
you added it.
I added that at the end.
Yeah.
Because I forgot about Mark Patton. Mark, I love you. I'm
Fraud.
sorry. Moonlight, because I've never seen it. but
I made you watch that clip.
But
for
she
my
made me watch the
essay.
clip, and because of that, it's in my honorable mention. Dallas Buyers Club, because freaking Leto was the shit in that movie. Crying Game just for the bathtub scene, because it was freaking hilarious. You know what? I'm gonna give it
Summer
to
Party Massacre.
Summer Party Massacre, the Driller Killer. That's
Oh,
no.
yeah, that's
All right, so I was talking about Rami Malek earlier, and I'm gonna go Taron Egerton, Rocket Man. Rocket Man was really good in that. He was freaking excellent on it. Tu Wong Fu, or the way Aspen calls it, Wu Tang Fu.
Sorry.
Wu Tang Fu ain't nothing to mess with.
I was just trying to think fast because he was trying to. We were having an argument. What were we even arguing about? That there was not enough.
I don't know. Jennifer's Body is another one. I also had Brokeback Mountain. Now, there's a thing of, because we were talking about this earlier before, and that was, you know, whether or not Brokeback Mountain should be in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
If you were talking about a straight up, you know, gay film, Brokeback Mountain for everything that it was made fun of, I guess I must say. That is actually an exceptional film. You watch it as just a film, you know, savant, I guess. And you look at the performances of Heath Ledger, Jake Gyllenhaal, directed by freaking Ang Lee, and it is actually a very well acted and great film. Michelle Williams, Anne Hathaway, it is really good. And people make fun of it and talk this and that, but the reality of it is, love is blind. There is nothing about love that has anything to do with heterosexuality or homosexuality. It has everything to do with happiness and comfort and just the joy of being in love. And I want to say that in the secrecy of everything in that relationship in Brokeback Mountain, that love was the centerpiece of the entire film. And Ang Lee and how he directed both of those actors and the professionalism from both actors. Heath Ledger's the fucking Joker. So in the professionalism that both actors brought to that, and the support that they had between Anne Hathaway and Michelle Williams, not from Destiny's Child, it is absolutely a fucking amazing
It's
film.
only Michelle Williams I know.
It is absolutely an amazing film. So I'm gonna put it in my honorable mentions. I'm not putting it in my top 5 because I'm not gonna take anything away from freaking Al Pacino because he was fucking amazing in Dog Day Afternoon. So that was that one. And just because I am a man, Bound is amazing. Gina Gershon, Jennifer Tilly, it's amazing. Scissor action, it's amazing. I love it.
Nobody said Gia.
Gia's another one. Okay,
Nobody said 6 Degrees of Separation.
No, but I'm gonna say Cruising, and that was actually one of my first. Well, I've never experienced anything around about the gay community, and this is an honest truth from my heart. When I was in California and San Francisco in the early 80s, I had never seen anything like that being from San Antonio, Texas. So when my mom was in a service and I was actually in San Francisco, I had seen this with my own eyes as far as gay men, the Blue Oyster, like for real, and I had never seen anything like that. So I had actually watched a movie called Cruising, ironically, with Al Pacino, and it's actually about an S&M gay serial killer that is targeting gay men in these gay strip bars. And I don't remember if it takes place in San Francisco, but I had never been exposed to anything like that in my life. And that was the first time and the first movie that I had ever seen that. Al Pacino is actually an undercover cop that goes in to investigate this stuff, and he starts getting involved in these things, and it starts, he's like deep undercover on this. So it, kind of like, gets to him. But I had never experienced it coming from San Antonio, and seeing that in San Francisco and live, it really, I understood it a lot more because I was actually living it. I was seeing it with my own eyes. So Cruising is an honorable mention because freaking it was eye-opening, first, exposure that I ever had to that kind of lifestyle. So yeah, and shout out to Milk, because Sean Penn and what he did and the life of Harvey Milk and everything that he did to gay rights is just, people die for this kind of thing. and we talk about Pride Month, and we're wearing the shirts and all that. But the reality is that this is something that should actually be not necessarily celebrated, but embraced as far as our culture and who we are as people and who we are as a society, because that is what's out there, and it's the happiness, and that's all that matters. If you're fixated on what happens on behind closed doors, then you're actually missing the message of love in itself. So cut the bullshit on that and just embrace people as who they are. So
Yay!
that's what I got on that.
Nobody said the Babadook.
The Babadook!
The Babadook!
Yes!
No,
The Babadook is horrible!
no, because he's always coming out the closet.
Oh my god! Yes,
He's the gay mascot.
He is the Babadook is the gay mascot. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you how this started. Okay, so when the Babadook came out on Netflix, when they, you know how like Netflix has like genres, right? So you can go search a movie by genre.
Right.
So instead of the Babadook being in the horror genre, people found it in the LGBT genre. And so people were like, oh my god, gay king.
The Babadook
He was literally their mascot, and it was like, so I didn't know that part. But it was like, the whole thing was like, he's always coming out the closet.
But it's so nice, like, but obviously, like, that movie is really good when you think about
It's
the
okay.
message.
I'm not putting it in my top 5.
It's about the message. And
Terrence put the Babadook in his
amazing.
top 5. It is not a top 5 horror
amazing.
film.
It is a female-directed film, and it is good. I mean,
really good
it
movie.
brings
Is it a
back.
top 5 horror film?
It's top 5.
Reality.
I mean,
you're a
oh,
horror
I mean,
queen, just like I am.
Top 5.
Not the queen part, but you know.
Maybe
Top 5 horror.
It might be like
It's a remote dropper.
Top, exactly. Thank you. Top 20, not top 5.
It's a remote dropper.
Terrence, take us home. Terrence. Aspen, take us home. Not that Terrence. This Terrence. Aspen, take us home.
All right, thank you so much for watching this. Happy Pride Month to all of you out there. And don't forget to subscribe to The Goods. A little rusty, sorry. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. Tell us down below what are your favorite films to watch during Pride Month and just favorite queer films to watch in general. What is it? Sign up for Patreon.
Be sure to sign up to our Patreon. Please buy a shirt from our Teespring. We currently don't have these Pride shirts, but if the request is high enough in demand, absolutely we will be sure to make those for you. We want to thank Aspen as far as being our original Goods podcast director. We started this show in 2015, and Aspen was behind the camera the entire time. So all the times you saw us screwing up and everything was all messed up, it's her fault. All right, so, but currently right now, Aspen is actually a contributor over at Ghouls Magazine. It is a female-led online horror magazine. You can find all kinds of horror content on Ghouls, and you can find Aspen on Twitter at HorrorQueer8. And please, hit her up as much as possible for her horror picks, because some of her horror picks are questionable. But either way, she is also a very, very gifted writer. Please be sure to read her reviews. She just wrote one on Spiral. It is absolutely amazing. Leave your comment below on anything that you have about Spiral, because we're all torn on that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, for Terrence and Carla on the couch, Aspen finally here in the Boom Boom Room, and Art wherever the hell he's at. I think we have him on the milk carton. But thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Real quick, if you're still here, because we do these into the video little blooper things. If you're still here, look down. There's a link here for Patreon. If you guys like the show, please give us money. We'll take a penny. We'll take a nickel. We'll take a dime. We'll take $1. We have some stuff on there that we're giving away on Patreon if you do contribute, because trust me, we need help. We want to buy new equipment, and we need an editor. Somebody who doesn't have to stay up in the middle of the night, or they don't have to stay up in the middle, but I won't have to do it. So please, down patreon.com/thegoods. It's in the link. Please do it. We appreciate it.